1917. Russia is in revolt and a new nation is born, conceived in chaos and baptized in blood. Nikolai Lenin, architect of the Bolshevik Revolution, becomes master of the Soviet masses, imposing a new harsh tyranny on an old ravaged land. 1924, Lenin is dead and an era is ended. Now it is Joseph Stalin, ruthless, despotic, who dictates and commands. And making his first appearance among the communist elite, Nikita Khrushchev, a miner's son, self-educated, shrewd, ambitious. As the years go by, Comrade Khrushchev moves up. He sits beside Stalin and becomes a member of the party's inner circle, a trusted lieutenant, a dedicated communist. During World War II, he dons a general's uniform to help direct the successful defense of Stalingrad. At war's end, Nikita Khrushchev holds a favored place at the side of the aging Stalin. And then in 1953, the old Bolshevik dies. The world watches, waits, and wonders. Who will succeed Stalin? Who will win out in the struggle for power? At first, it appears that Yogi Malenkov, Stalin's hand-picked successor, is the man. He is named Premier and Communist Party Secretary. But within 2 years, he is replaced in both posts. The job of Premier goes to Nikolai Bulganin, while the office of Party Secretary is taken over by Nikita Sergeevich Khrushchev. Together, B and K, as they are called, go traveling, carrying their gospel of communism to countries behind and then beyond the Iron Curtain. Peking, standing side by side, comrades Khrushchev and Mao Zedong pledge before the world friendship, peace, and mutual cooperation. Next, a bold and daring gamble by Nikita Khrushchev. In 1956, in a weeping 3-hour address, he denounces Stalin as a murderer, a maniac, and a military blunderer. Delegates of the Communist Party Congress applaud the vilification of their fallen idol, and Nikita Khrushchev, his accuser, becomes the true successor to Stalin. 3 years later, the Russian leader and Vice President Nixon engage in an impromptu television debate in Moscow. The Soviet premier taunts the Vice President by saying Russia will pass the United States by 1966 and wave to her going by. If you wish, he says, we can stop and say, please follow. Khrushchev will pay dearly for failing to fulfill his boast. In 1960, the Soviet premier accepts an invitation to come to the United States to see and to be seen by millions of Americans. His travels take him to an Iowa farm where he inspects modern methods of raising corn and livestock. Soviet and American pigs can coexist, says Khrushchev. Why can't we? And at Aspen Lodge, final talks between the Soviet premier and President Eisenhower give promise of a new era, a new spirit in Russian-American relations. A year later, such hopes are shattered. The U-2 incident and Khrushchev's attempt to replace Dag Hammarskjöld with a three-man troika strain anew East-West relations. And the Russian leader's tirades and tantrums at the United Nations shock and outrage the General Assembly.
Why then this jerk, this stooge of American imperialism here, who's speaking before you, he is touching upon questions which are obviously not procedural ones, and the president, who is sympathizing with these colonialists and colonial domination, obviously is not stopping him. Is that justice? Mr. President, we live on earth not by the grace of God and not by your grace, sir, but the force and the strength of our great Soviet people and by the strength of all peoples who fight for their independence.
I'm sure the Assembly will see that in view of the scene we have just witnessed, the appropriate step is the Assembly should be adjourned at once, and it is hereby adjourned.
Russia and Nikita Khrushchev are in orbit in these, their golden days of glory. The Soviet Union has taken the lead in the exploration of space, and welcoming back each new conquering cosmonaut, the roly-poly Russian leader makes the most of his propaganda advantage. The people do not remember and are not told that Nikita Khrushchev once said, "Rockets are for the imperialist aggressors. There is no need for space research in Russia." In Vienna in 1961, the old Russian leader and the young American President John Fitzgerald Kennedy meet for the first and only time face to face. "16 months later, with the discovery of Soviet missiles in Cuba, their two countries will stand eyeball to eyeball as the world trembles on the brink of nuclear war. Nikita Khrushchev will blink first, telling his people that for the sake of peace, Russia will withdraw her missiles from Cuba. World peace, uneasy as it may be, is preserved. In Peking, militant Mao Zedong has only scorn for Khrushchev and his actions. Peaceful coexistence, says Mao, is a betrayal of the basic Marxist-Lenin doctrine of violent world revolution. The conflict between the two giants of the communist world grows sharper as Red China speaks less and less as a satellite and more as an equal. "1963, Russia takes still another significant step along the road to peaceful coexistence. The United States and England joined with the Soviet Union in signing an historic treaty outlawing nuclear tests and explosions in the atmosphere, outer space, or underwater. Communist China denounces America as a paper tiger and attacks the treaty as a sign of Russian cowardice. At his vacation villa after the signing, Nikita Khrushchev challenges Secretary of State Rusk to an informal game of badminton. Soviet-American relations have never seemed better, and Comrade Khrushchev's position of power has never seemed more secure. On April 17, 1964, on his 70th birthday, the Soviet premier is decorated and honored. "Your remarkable deeds have won you the love of all Soviet people," he is told. For Nikita Sergeevich Khrushchev, this is the last hurrah. "5 months and 28 days later, Khrushchev is out, and his successor as Communist Party Secretary, Leonid Brezhnev, is denouncing the deposed leader as a harebrained schemer, immature, a braggart. And so when Cuban President Dorticós comes to Moscow, Brezhnev heads the welcoming committee. Comrade Khrushchev is nowhere to be seen. Russia's new premier is Alexei Kosygin, who said during the Cuban crisis that compromise with capitalism is sometimes necessary. Overnight, the change is effected. The shakeup in the Kremlin is completed. Such are the ways and workings of communism. Such are the uncertainties and uneasiness that await all who would rule in Russia today.